Well, ladies and gents, one of the biggest movies of this year, Top Gun Maverick, has a copyright lawsuit against it. This is quite a crazy turn of events. I didn't think this would have went ahead, but I mean, I can understand why looking into the particulars of it. It's interesting. It's really, really interesting. And I'm surprised that Paramount, and maybe they didn't offer them money. Maybe they did offer the rights holders money. Maybe. This is an interesting turn of events. Like I say, one of the biggest movies of this year, both critically and audience rated. People love this movie, and rightly so. It's a great film. It's a genuinely good time. You don't have to watch the original to watch this film and enjoy it. And a strong recommendation. I reviewed this film and I had such a good time with it. It just works. It just is. No greater, wider nonsense being told. It's just a self-contained story. And it works very, very well. Feel-good film as well. And when you sit there in that theatre, obviously not now, but at home, on a big screen, when you sit there and you think, yeah, wow, they actually did fly those planes, those aircraft. You go, holy shit. Like, it is crazy. And that adds always, I think, a new layer of depth to a film with Tom Cruise. Just because you know that he's done these things, which is madness, absolute madness. So dive into this today, ladies and gents. Before we do, please do hit subscribe and please do share the video. YouTube has changed something behind the scenes, so impressions are less. Basically, videos are not being put to you, subscribers, or anyone else. It's a very bizarre turn of events. It's happened this month. It's about 25% down, which is a considerable amount. So please do share the video and please do subscribe, like, all that good stuff. It's the one thing I'll ask. Please do. Costs nothing. But anyway, let's dive into this. So Paramount's motion to dismiss a copyright lawsuit for the relatively recently released Top Gun Maverick, it's pretty recent, has been denied, allowing the legal accusation to take off. Love a pun. So this was filed in June of this year by Shosh and Yuval Yoneh, the widow and son, respectively, of late Israeli writer Ehud Yoneh, I'm butchering those names, whose 1983 Top Guns article served as the basis for the original film. So the copyright claim against Paramount argues that the studio did not have the rights to the story at the time of Top Gun Maverick's release. So this is something which, copyright's an interesting thing. It's always interesting to dive into because it's one of the reasons why, films can't get made. Some can, and they're just interesting. And we've done a few copyright lawsuit videos on this channel. I think the most recent one was Clive Barker winning the rights back, the copyright back to Hellraiser. But anyway, the motion picture rights to Yoneh's article were legally obtained by Paramount in 1986. The agreement between the two stated that the studio's license to the story would expire after 35 years. So according to the family's lawsuit, this expiration date came in 2018, 6 years after Yoneh's passing and 3 before the premiere of Top Gun Maverick. So there's grounds. On January 23rd of that year, the Yonehs would file a notice to reclaim the publication rights to Top Guns from Paramount, therein providing the studio with a due date of January 2020. So this is this tends to be one of the issues with the copyright, is that the former rights holders do actually have to file a notice to claim the rights back. And this tends to be, where the studio and the rights holders then get into the legal battle. This actually happened with the original writers of the Predator spec script. They sued to get the rights back as well, and there was a back and forth with Fox and then Disney, basically saying that they didn't file in time, etc. But this one seems pretty clear cut. They did file it. So, yeah. Interesting. At the time, Paramount spokesperson responded to the notice with a declaration that these claims are without merit and will defend ourselves vigorously. Basically, I've got to bury my head in the sand. And I can say that because, obviously, the judge has allowed this to go ahead. So it is a burying the head in the sand situation. But as per the legal document filed by the Yunays earlier this year, the family of the Israeli author properly availed themselves of their right to recover the copyright to the story under the Copyright Act 17 USC, standard copyright basically, by sending Paramount a statutory notice of termination, the termination notice, and thereafter filing it with the Copyright Office effective January 24th, 2020. Pretty much above board. Paramount engaged in the willful conduct alleged herein, notwithstanding that it is a sophisticated multinational corporation whose core business is based upon the value and enforcement of copyrights and other intellectual property. So it's basically saying, you do this for a living, you should know this, and you have willfully broken the law because it's something you know. A pretty strong argument. Which, again, I can see why it is going ahead. The legal document also elaborates on the termination right, detailing how Section 203 provides for the termination of post-1977 transfers of rights under copyright by the author during a 5-year period commencing 35 years after the date the rights were transferred. It is this legal stipulation which made it possible for the Yunays to reclaim the exclusive motion picture rights to UHUDs or EHUDs, original article. Subsequently, it also thus allowed for them to sue Paramount Pictures on the grounds that the studio profited from Top Gun Maverick after the rights had already reverted back to the Yunays, and also basically saying they had no right to make it. It's a really strong argument. So in terms of how the sequel violates this licensing agreement, the Yunays allege that upon a review of the 2022 sequel, like the 1986 film, reveals key elements that are substantially similar to those in the story as set forth in Exhibit 1 to this complaint and incorporated by reference herein. So, through use of the included 19-page document listed as Exhibit 1, the family provided a side-by-side comparison of the elements present in both Yonay's Top Gun's article and Paramount's Top Gun Maverick, many of which being scenes that were allegedly present or shared similarities to moments in the original Top Gun. Makes sense. It's the same thing, right? Plaintiffs are informed and believe and based thereon allege that Paramount was and is involved in the financing, production and distribution of the 2022 sequel in the United States and is the film's purported copyright holder, the Yunays lawsuit claims. So the document goes on to allege that without a newly secured license, Paramount's exploitation of the 2022 sequel in the United States constitutes ongoing intentional infringement of the Yunays copyright, including without limitation their exclusive right to prepare derivative works based upon the copyright work, which Paramount had owned pursuant to the grant, but lost on January 24th, 2020, which they had already filed for. So, again, strong argument, and willfully proceeded to exploit nonetheless. It's a pretty big argument. There could be grounds for them winning this. I mean, the chances of them winning would be quite strong, but I would imagine Paramount will just pay them a lot of money and they'll go, okay, basically. However, though, on May 11th, 2022, the Yunays sent Paramount a cease and desist letter regarding the 2022 sequel. The suit claims that just 2 days later, Paramount responded in total denial of the fact that its 2022 sequel was obviously derivative of the story. I mean, it obviously is. What? It's a sequel. Of course. What? Paramount additionally argued that the 2022 sequel was sufficiently completed by January 24th, 2020, the effective termination date, in a disingenuous attempt to bootstrap the 2022 sequel into the prior derivative works, exception to termination, it elaborates. So sticking to their guns, Top Guns, Paramount filed a motion to dismiss the Yunays lawsuit in August, on the grounds that any similarity between these vastly different works derives from the fact that Top Gun is an actual naval training facility. Plaintiffs do not have a monopoly over works about Top Gun. Elite fighter pilots loving to fly and being dedicated to their craft and competitive are facts described in the article, the studio motion declared. Plaintiffs do not have a monopoly over these unremarkable facts merely because Yonay once reported on them. So why did you have to get the rights to make the first film then? Huh? What? Unfortunately for the studio, on Thursday, the 10th of November, US District Judge Percy Anderson declared in a court order that defendant's primary argument in its motion to dismiss is that plaintiffs have not sufficiently pled in their FAC that the article and the sequel are substantially similar. For all of the foregoing reasons, the court denies the motion to dismiss. Judge Anderson continued. The court concludes that the FAC contains sufficient, well-pleaded facts to state viable claims for copyright infringement, breach of contract, and declaratory relief. Like I said, pretty strong arguments. Following this ruling, a spokesperson for Paramount promptly issued a statement, of course they did, promising that while the court declined to dismiss the case at this very early stage in the proceedings, we will continue to vigorously defend this lawsuit and are confident that discovery will confirm that the claims have no merit. I'm going to be so intrigued to see what goes on with this. When the court reviews the article and Maverick, as opposed to plaintiffs' irrelevant and misleading purported comparison of the works, it is clear as a matter of law that Maverick does not borrow any of the article's protected expression. So Paramount had until Monday the 28th of November to issue a formal response to the Yoneh family's copyright complaint, and as of writing, a studio's not done one. Or it's not publicly available. Holy! I'm going to be so intrigued. I don't really care what happens in this situation. I got no dog in this fight. I'm just intrigued to watch it and see what happens. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think? Let me know down below.